Hey everyone, welcome to Talks of Thailand. My name is Jon. Today's story is about a man who made a few compromises when it came to his relationship in Thailand, and ultimately, it destroyed him. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, give the video a like, and let's get in to today's story. Having to admit that I'm just another statistic is probably the most humbling and embarrassing thing that I have ever had to do. But if I have to be truthful about things, what happened to me in Thailand pales in comparison to how disillusioned I was back at home, and that's saying something. This was during the COVID pandemic when it started, and as somebody who always wanted to do what was best for everybody else, and someone who cared deeply about all the people around me, I hated that back in my home country, America, people always seemed to push back against what was in their and their fellow countrymen's best interests. The mask situation at home really angered me. I diligently wore masks. I had no problem wearing masks. But the fact that so many of my fellow countrymen seemed to fight back against wearing masks completely alienated me from my peers. Thailand came up as what seemed to be a perfect solution for me. Like many people trapped indoors, I gravitated towards YouTube, and Thailand content became the content that I loved the most. I looked at those guys making videos in Thailand as the guys who had all the answers to all the problems I was facing: affordable living, beautiful weather, amazing food, but more importantly, the people in Thailand seemed to not have the same kind of issues when it came to things like the masks and mandates. Thailand seemed to offer more of a community feel and more of a everyone takes care of everyone vibe, and that really excited me. It seemed to be the sort of place where I would fit in the most. At that moment in time, 2020, I was 34 years old. I'd worked jobs I'd hated for pretty much all my life, and COVID actually saw me losing my job. The thing was, it was losing my job that opened up the idea of remote work as being a possibility for me. Remote work seemed like it was the thing that anyone could do to find their place, to find the place where they fit in the most, and the place where they were the most comfortable. Where they didn't have to feel so out of place, surrounded by people who wanted nothing more than to make the country a worse place for everyone else. I hope that goes some way to describe where I was at the time, both mentally and emotionally. Disillusioned, wanting a change, and Thailand seemed like it was the perfect change for me. It's only right to say that I didn't really have any money at all at that time, maybe a couple of $1,000s at most, and that was it. But as soon as Thailand became a thing, that was when I started looking for a remote job. This was a very new thing for me, and I didn't know what to expect. But before long, I managed to find something that seemed like it was going to be okay. Granted, it was only paid $1,500 a month, but from what everyone told me, I mean the YouTubers who always made the videos I loved watching the most, $1,500 a month in Thailand was an absolute fortune and should be enough for me to have the best time in the world. They made Thailand sound like it was so cheap, and when you've never really got ahead before, when you've never really done anything you've wanted to do before, the idea that now I had enough money coming in to actually live a great life, that was very exciting for me. I got myself to Thailand as soon as I possibly could. This was in 2022, and at this point, as I had consumed so much content about the place, I felt like I was already an old hand as soon as I arrived. I was fully vaccinated. I was trying to show myself as being the sort of person who respects how things are done, and I believed that because of my mentality, I would fit in very well in Thailand. When I arrived in Bangkok, I immediately felt like I found the sort of place that I could really get to know, the place where I would fit in the most, but most importantly, the sort of place that I could cherish. I hope that makes sense. I felt like my own worldviews and my opinions about things fit in better in Thailand, and I was so excited to be there. Bangkok took that excitement to the next level, because when you come from a small town like I do, where not much changes and not much happens, Bangkok really awakens a part of you that you didn't know existed until you actually experience it for yourself. Bangkok was the city that I was always interested in the most out of everywhere else that people talked about. I wasn't interested in Pattaya for the party scenes, that wasn't me. I wasn't particularly interested in places like Phuket or Hua Hin or Chiang Mai up in the north. Chiang Mai did seem like a nice place, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I wanted energy, I wanted to feel alive, I wanted excitement on every corner, I wanted busy, I wanted to be thrown in right at the deep end, and I can guarantee you that I felt like I was thrown in right at the deep end when I got to Bangkok. I started looking for my first condo to rent around the Asok area, but I quickly found out that with my budget of $1,500 a month total, it wouldn't leave me with enough money left over for anything else. Because of that, I started to look further afield down the BTS line, and I found a great little place to rent close to the Bering BTS station. It was only a studio unit, but it was only about $300 a month, and that was good enough for me. It was very important that it had to be clean, nice, and everything I needed, because I worked remotely and I would be spending a lot of my time there. I can remember doing my first remote shift, and as I need to be truthful about this, I must say it wasn't as fun as I was expecting it to be, because I had to work US hours. But if that was the only thing that was a negative for me since I arrived, then I was happy to accept it. After I'd been in Thailand for around a month, everything felt like it had fallen into place so well. I felt like I made the right decision by going to Thailand. I felt like I would have to be stupid not to have gone, and I'd already committed to the fact that Thailand would be the place I would spend the rest of my life. That's how much Thailand took hold of me just after I arrived. Now, before I go any further, I need to be honest and talk about my relationship status. Basically, from the time I left home at 18 until I moved to Thailand, it was pretty much non-existent. I always felt like I was a sort of person who would have a beautiful wife who would dote on him, love him, and respect him. In return, I always thought I was the sort of person who would give love and respect to my future partner. And because of just how different Thailand was than back at home, where I was so used to everything being equal, everything being shared on that front, I guess some people may say that I took my Western views of relationships to Thailand in a way that wasn't necessarily the best idea. I did hope to find a girl in Thailand, of course I did. I did hope to have a serious relationship. I did hope to get married and start a family and build more of a connection to the country that I had just found and fallen in love with. I suppose that if I had to point to any moment in time when I made a huge error of judgment, that was it. I would say that I was going into what I was doing with the understanding that I wasn't there to be controlling. I wasn't there to bark orders at anyone or tell anyone what to do. I was there to be in a loving relationship, to show respect, and to give my girlfriend, and hopefully future wife, the autonomy she deserves to be able to enjoy and make the most out of her own life. That's basically what I'm trying to say. I didn't want to be one of those guys that just because he meets a girl from Thailand, somehow thinks he's God's gift, and what he says goes. I will leave it for you to decide if I made an error on that front or not. Why this is so important is because, of course, going to Thailand, I'd heard of the bars, but I never really had much of a desire to go into any of them, apart from maybe to just go for a bit of a look, but nothing more than that. I wasn't thinking I'd go to the bars every day, or that I'd meet a girl in a bar, but I did say to myself once I arrived that I must at least go to one bar to say that I've been. But also, I wanted to be able to warn other people about the horrors of places like that. The idea that the girls working in the bars were being exploited was where my mind was at the time, and I had it already worked out that the bars would most likely be the most disgusting part of Thailand, not really knowing exactly how things worked. I'd been in Thailand for just over a month at this point when I went to a bar for the first time, and I must say that it was absolutely nothing like I was expecting it to be. I think that's the only way I can accurately describe it. It wasn't anything like I was expecting. The girls in there seemed to be so special, they seemed to be so independent, so autonomous, so free, and I looked up to them straight away as being exemplary individuals who are making the most out of a bad situation in terms of the fact that they were only there because they were from a poor family. I just thought they were amazing. I suppose I went to the bars every week after that, probably for a few months, not expecting anything more serious than that, just an occasional chat and a few drinks. Never in my wildest expectations did I think I would take a girl from a bar, and never did I expect that not only that, but I would meet a girl who I started to think would be a serious candidate for a lifetime partner. I met her in a bar on Soi 4, not in Nana Plaza, so before you try and say that, I can promise you that, but it was in a more intimate bar a little bit further up the street. I just walked in. It would have been either a Saturday or a Sunday, given the fact that I wasn't working on those days. I sat down and I ordered a drink like I usually did. For whatever reason, it seemed to be a lot quieter that day than it usually was, and that gave me a bit of time to reflect on the situation and just how things were. It was fun. It was great. And then she came and sat next to me. I suppose you've had something similar in your life, where you can be sitting down and something startles you. In my instance, a girl coming to sit down next to me. You take a look to the right or the left, wherever the sound came from, and you turn back to your drink and have another sip. That's exactly what I did, but the difference was, I took a look at her and went back for a drink, and before I even had another sip, I had to take another look at her to see if she was real, and she was. She was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my whole life. She was absolutely stunning, 10 out of 10. Exactly like what I'd always looked for in a girl, but that I could never have. When she reached out her hand to shake mine and asked if she could have a drink, of course she could have a drink. I just said to her, "Have anything you want." I can remember feeling like this was the most heart-pumping thing that had happened to me for such a long time. I couldn't believe that I was in the presence of such a beautiful girl, but not only that, the fact that she was talking to me, laughing with me, and showing interest in me made the whole thing even more exciting. I found out that day that she was 22 years old, from a part of the country known as Isan in the northeast. And I get it, that's where lots of girls who work in the bars come from. But at the time, I didn't know anything about that part of the country. But she was from there. She had a kid, her family were there, and she said that she was working to support them. The way she said she was working to support them, the way she said she was doing it for her family, everything about that didn't scream to me at all like she was there by force, or that she didn't want to be there, or that she didn't like it. Everything that she said to me, I took as her being the most independent, beautiful, outgoing, smart, and ambitious girl that you could ever hope to meet. I listened to everything she had to say with amazement. Of course, I had spoken to girls in the past in bars I'd been in, but never, ever did I think about actually doing anything more than chatting and having a drink. I never thought I would like or even love a girl I met in a bar. Although I was open to the possibility, I didn't think I would even come close to something happening like that. With her, everything shifted. My whole mentality shifted. She was the first girl I met in Thailand who I felt like I wanted to get to know more, but I was very uncomfortable with the situation and the connotations that went along with that, given the fact that she worked there, and if I wanted to go out with her, of course, the bar would have to have some money from me, and I just had to push that to the back of my mind and think to myself, okay, she is a very independent and autonomous person, so if that's what I'm going to have to do, then I will do it. After I'd been in the bar for, I don't even remember how long, it's not important, I asked her if she would like to go and have dinner with me, and she said yes. I can even feel it in my chest now, how much my heart was pumping as I walked with her out of the bar. It was mesmerizing. I think that's the only way I can say how it felt. It was exhilarating. There I was, walking out of a bar in Bangkok along Sukhumvit Soi 4, with what I considered the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. Not only that, she was holding my hand and smiling at me, bumping up next to me and joking with me as if I was the guy she'd always dreamed of meeting, and it felt amazing. After we had something to eat, I asked how she would feel about going back to my place, and she said she'd love to. I knew what that meant in terms of money, but I wasn't about to not ask her to not do what she did just for me. I probably would admit that that night was the best night of my life, as it was everything I thought it would be. She left the next morning, which stung, because I knew what that meant. I would go as far as saying I did fall in love with her that night, and I promised her that I would go and see her the next week, given the fact that I worked during the week at nights, and also the fact that I didn't have enough money to go too many times. I just thought maybe the feelings would die down as the week passed by, and if they do, great, I won't need to see her again. The thing was, they didn't. I thought about her every single second throughout that week. Every second I was thinking about her. Every second I was thinking what she was doing. I was dreaming about her. I even dreamt about her when I went to sleep. That gave me all the information I felt I needed to go back and see her again, and I was even thinking about asking her if she wanted to be my girlfriend, because that's how serious I felt so early on. I was very nervous as I made my way back to her bar the following week, wondering if she'd be there. I was even scared that perhaps she'd stopped working, perhaps she'd met somebody, perhaps it was her day off. I just hoped that that wouldn't be the case. I needn't have worried. She was there, and she was exactly like I remembered her being. The way she looked at me, the way she smiled at me, and the way she seemed so happy to see me, it was as if she was waiting for me to go back and see her. She even said, "I thought you'd never come back, but I'm so happy that you did." We spent a few hours in the bar again and headed out for something to eat and back to my place, and again I'm thinking to myself, how do I take this to the next level? How do I make this more serious? What do I need to do to make her understand that I like her? It was a very difficult situation, but a situation where I knew I needed to be careful, as I didn't want her to think I was only after one thing. I wasn't only after one thing. I was after the whole picture. I was after love, a relationship, and the fact that she was talking about how she wanted to be in a relationship as well. I thought we were both on the same page. The following morning, she left again, and that next week was even worse. And I came to a decision when I went to see her the following week, I would ask her how she would feel about becoming my permanent girlfriend. That was my dream, and the thing I wanted to happen. It was a very difficult week. I was struggling at work thinking about her, not enjoying work, feeling like it was in the way of me going to see her. And I was working through the nights, sleeping in the days. And as those days and nights were passing, getting to the point where I could go back and see her again, all I could think about was what would happen is if she said no. That's what I was scared about, her saying no. But I wanted to put across a very good case of why us being together would be the best solution for us both. And I was very nervous when I went back to see her again. Very nervous, not knowing how she would react or what she would say. That time, we only had a drink each in her bar before leaving. I went earlier than normal and I took her to a really nice restaurant. There was a place in a very tall building. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called, but they've got a revolving bit at the top that you can stand on and look at the 360-degree views of Bangkok. Just underneath, they have a few restaurants, buffet style, so I took her there and I told her exactly how I was feeling. I told her that I'd never met anyone like her before. I told her that I was thinking I'd like her to be my girlfriend. I kept pointing to the fact that she had said the same thing about how she'd met me and she'd never met anyone like me and how she likes me too. So I really did think we were on the same page. When she looked at me and said that sounds fantastic, I'd love to move in. I mean, she didn't use those exact words. It really felt amazing. We had a great meal together, and we promised in the morning she wouldn't leave straight away, and we'd talk about getting things sorted out and working out how it would work. I can remember that night as well. It was the best night of my life, again. I mean, every night with her was the best night of my life. And the following morning, after we went out for some breakfast, which I never usually did, we went back to my place and started to work out how we could make this work. I said to her, "You can move into my place. You don't need to help me to pay for the rent. I will pay for the food. I will pay when we go out, and I will pay for all the bills. And you can just contribute as and when you can, so don't worry about it." She looked at me with a very strange look, as if to say, "What are you talking about?" So I repeated myself, and she said, "If I stay with you, I will have to stop working. And if I have to stop working, I won't have any money, and I need to support my family and my kid, so I will need you to give me 30,000 baht a month." 30,000 baht a month. I can remember even saying that before I understood what I was saying. "What do you mean?" I said, given the fact that I had $1,500 a month income, which was less than 50,000 baht. Giving her that money wouldn't make any financial sense, and I had to tell her, Is it okay if we stay together and you can go and get a different job because I love you and I want to be with you? She said she can't get another job. She can't make enough money. And usually, if you meet a girl in a bar, it's the guy's job to step in and give her money in place of what she no longer earns. I just told her that I don't have enough money to do that. I'm working, I'm getting set up, let's build something together. Unfortunately, she wasn't having it. She kept saying no can do, and she stormed out. She actually stormed out. I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand what she was doing. I thought we had already made it clear that we loved each other and that we wanted to be with each other. But the fact that I wasn't going to step in and give her money, that seemed to change her completely, and I couldn't for the life of me understand why. I'm not embarrassed to say that I actually started crying when she left. I was so shocked. I'd never felt that way about a girl before, not once, and she just left like it was nothing, and all I could think about doing was going back to the bar and getting her to see sense. She could get another job. She could go and work somewhere like 7-Eleven. She might only make 9,000 baht a month, but it's respectable, it's fine, and it means we can be together. I suppose many people would say I was just completely deluded, not knowing what was going on, but at the time I didn't see it that way. I thought I was just a normal sort of guy who wanted a relationship with a normal sort of girl. I thought she was a normal girl, independent and hardworking. Unfortunately, given the fact that I had to work that week, all I was able to do was think about her, and it devastated me thinking about her back at the bar when I was not with her, but I couldn't do anything about it. The following week, I went back again. She wasn't distant as I was scared she was going to be. She didn't shout or ignore me. She just said she was sorry, but she needs to make money. And I said, well, shall we try again? Let's go have something to eat. Let's talk and let's work things out. She said, okay. We didn't go to an expensive restaurant that time, just a Thai place close to where I was living with cheap food. She said something to me that proves just how desperate I was. She said she was sorry about last time. She said she loves me so much. She said meeting me was one of the best things that ever happened to her, but she needs money. She said she needs at least 30,000 baht a month, and she can't make that anywhere else doing any other job. I told her that I simply can't give you that money because I earn less than 50,000 a month total, and after paying for the accommodation and bills, there is only enough money left to live. She said she understood, but I told her again, if you live with me, you won't have to pay for your room anymore and any other thing like that. But then she said her room was only around 2,000 baht a month, plus a small amount of electric, so she wouldn't be saving that much. I then told her I'd pay for all your food and everything else as well, but I just couldn't give you any cash. Surely that should be enough. Whatever I came up with, whatever I tried to point to as being a good idea, she always had a reason to say it wasn't. The thought of not being with her sickened me, so I said something to her that I can't really believe that I said. I said to her, what about if you still work in the bar and continue working in the bar? You can live with me, and I will pay for everything that we use together. I said, as long as you come back home every day and as long as you're truthful with me about everything, how would that work? Does that sound okay? She thought about it for a second. It was clear she was thinking about what to say, and eventually she said, how would that work? You know what I do. I said, of course I know what you do, but given the fact that I was so in love with her, and the fact that she was so independent and very hard-working, I thought, it is just a job. If that's what she's doing, then I should respect that and support her. I thought back to when you see people who work in movies and do things like that, and have successful marriages and families, so if they can do it, why can't we? If that's what it's going to take, then perhaps that's what we're going to have to do. We agreed that that's what we would do, and as soon as it was agreed, I felt like I was the happiest man in the world, the happiest man in Thailand, the happiest man in the universe, because all of a sudden I had a girlfriend, and not only that, I had my dream girl, and I didn't have to give her any money for her to be with me. That's what I thought. That's what I pointed at. Okay, I'm paying for the accommodation, but I would be paying for that anyway. I'm paying for the utilities, but I'd pay for those anyway too. And yes, I would pay for the food, but I didn't think that was too bad. I also thought from time to time she would contribute when she could. She was working, so why wouldn't she? It was arranged. She moved in with me. About 3 months after I moved to Thailand, I had a girlfriend, and I couldn't believe how lucky I felt.
I had agreed with her that she wouldn't need to go back to the bar for a week, and after that she would, just so we could spend a bit of time together and we could work out exactly what we both did, how we both thought about things, and what our habits were, and then after that we would be good. I keep saying things such as the best in my life, and the best this and the best that, but that week with her I can promise was the best week I ever had in my life before and after. I couldn't believe just how amazing it was. And even though I was working, she was so attentive, she was so affectionate and so loving, and she was everything you'd want in a girlfriend. Everything. I'm not going to lie and say I wasn't dreading her first day going back to work, but again, I have to point to the fact she was her own woman. She can do what she wants, and if that's what she wants to do for a living, that's great. I will respect it. It was Tuesday, her first day back. She left around 5 p.m. I started work not long later, and to be honest, it didn't feel as bad as I thought it would feel. I just thought, more fool the guy who has to give her money, and look at me, the guy who can be with her for free, who she actually loves. I felt like I was king of the world. I felt like I was the guy who had cracked the code to all the bar girl problem relationships. I didn't need to give her money. If that means she still had to work there, who cares? I didn't. I was working, thinking about her. I was checking the time all the time, and it was 3:30 a.m. when she walked in, blind drunk, and of course that was expected. But the fact that she pulled me away from my computer chair and was the perfect girlfriend for an hour was proof to me that what we had was real, and what she did with anyone else wasn't. I really did think like I had actually cracked the code. After the first weeks, I feel like we settled into our own unique way of life, and I was really happy. But it was more like me being not uncomfortable with what she was doing, not uncomfortable that she was able to be herself and have the job that she wanted to do, but it was more that I felt like what we had wasn't real enough. I think that's the best way to say it. It was like what we had was real, but it could be not real at any time, and these were the feelings I was having as the first few days went by and those days turned into weeks. Every single time she came back when she wasn't drunk, she would always be honest about what had happened, and I took that as a sign that she respected me, and I respected her too. I loved the fact that she didn't try to hide anything. I loved the fact that she didn't try to pretend that things that happened didn't happen. The fact she was prepared to tell me everything was exactly what I needed to make what we had work. But the feeling of it being somewhat temporary, the feeling of not having something binding us in a more concrete way, started to weigh on me even more after this had been going on for about a month, and I came up with a solution that I thought was the next step to solidifying our relationship. The next step being with her in a more formal kind of way. I wanted to get married to her. At least, that way we would be husband and wife, and that would mean that I would be even more confident that what we had was real and what she did elsewhere was not. I'd saved up a little bit of money for a few months since I'd arrived in Thailand, given the fact that I didn't have much, and I had just enough money to buy her a small gold ring from one of the gold shops that you see all over Bangkok. One day, when she left for work, I still had a few hours before I needed to work, I went to Big C, close to where I was living. Inside, they had a gold shop, and in there, I picked out this really beautiful gold ring. It was about half a baht weight in gold, which is something I learned about at the time. The fact that the currency in Thailand is the Thai baht, and gold is measured in baht weight. I believe, and I could be mistaken on this, that 1 baht is about 15 grams, and therefore half a baht is about 7.5. I felt amazing as I left that gold shop with the ring, thinking about being able to propose to her. She had 2 days off work per month, and those days were when we went places together, when we went out to eat together, when we went to spend time with each other. They were the days I always looked forward to the most. Her next days off were coming up in approximately a week's time, which would coincide with my Saturday and Sunday, and I tried my best to keep it a secret what my intentions were as the week went by. I can remember feeling so excited at the prospect of seeing how she would react. I had done some research into a really nice restaurant around the area that we were staying, and I found a place that served very good quality Chinese food because I knew how much she liked that kind of food, so I took her there. It was expensive, but I had also saved up money for that as well. You have to understand that at the time, as we're doing things together, she's always just like a normal girlfriend. There was nothing when we were together to indicate what she does for work, nothing whatsoever to indicate she's not with me for any other reason than love. And when I took her to that restaurant, she was excited to go and try it, and although I had planned to propose to her at the end of the meal, I just couldn't hold it in. So I got down on one knee, told her how I felt, and asked her to marry me. She looked so happy, which is exactly how I wanted her to look, and she said she would love to get married to me. She said that in Thailand there are lots of things to talk about when it comes to marriage, so after we eat, let's go for something to drink, and tomorrow we can talk through the Thai customs and traditions that are very important to her and also to her family. I will admit I knew nothing about Thai customs and traditions at the time, but I was all for learning about them. If I go to someone else's country, I do things their way. That's how it has to be, and whatever their way was, I was excited to learn about it. We finished up with our meal, went out for a few drinks at a place close by, just excited being in each other's company, and I was quite close to not putting this part in my story because it is a little bit uncomfortable. But we were in that place, and this is in Bering, mind you, a long way from Sukhumvit Soi 4 where she worked. But we were there, having a few drinks, and all of a sudden, someone called out her name. We both looked around and there was a guy, probably in his 60s, who said, "Hi, how are you?" He quickly saw me, and I believe he was a respectable sort of person, and he said hi to me as well, and tried to indicate that he was asking after my girlfriend's friend. Judging by the look on her face, I think he was talking about her, but when he saw that we were together, he just said, "Great seeing your friend, tell her I asked about her," and that was it. It did put a bit of a damper on the night, but I didn't really care. I'm not some kind of prune, I'm not a person that doesn't understand the ways of the world or her job, so again, if anything, I thought it was amazing. There I was with her, and she loves me. I suppose everything I could have used to tell me to be careful, everything I should have looked at to tell me not to do what I was using as proof that what I was doing was right, when in fact, I should have used that same proof to show me that what I was doing was anything but right. I guess that's how we learn lessons. We returned home not too late and had a great night, and in the morning, after we both got over our hangovers, well, after I got over my hangover, she didn't seem to get hangovers, perhaps as she drank so much all the time at work, we started to discuss the marriage. She told me that in Thailand there are two kinds of marriages. First, the village ceremony, which would mean me going up to her village, meeting her family, having a big party, the whole village shows up to see we are together, and then there's also the official marriage, where you go to the district office to sign on the paper to say you're now married. That all sounded very good to me, but one thing that she didn't say at the time, or one thing she omitted, was sinsot, but I'll get to that soon. After all that was sorted out, we decided that she could take a week off work in a few weeks' time when I happened to have a week off work too, and we would go and have an introduction to the family. We wouldn't get married yet, but we'd get everything arranged for a date in the not-too-distant future. As the time was passing, when we were getting closer to that time, she said something along the lines of, I can't remember exactly how she put it, but she said she can't wait to get married to me. She's happy to do the village ceremony first, but she would only want to marry me on paper when I had enough money to be able to support her fully and take her out of the bar. I didn't really know how to think about that, but when I actually took time to myself to think about it long and hard and understand what she was actually saying, I thought that sounded fair. At the end of the day, I was in my mid-30s, she was a lot younger than me, and I had the ability to make more money than she did. She wasn't educated, and in Thailand, education seemed to be so important, so yes, as soon as she stops working, we can get married on paper, and then we can think about starting a family. We both talked about wanting to have a family, but of course, we couldn't start a family with her still working in the bar, so I made it my mission to try and make more money. When it was time to actually go and visit her family, I was really excited. At this point, I'd not even left Bangkok once since I'd arrived, and I had no idea what to expect when it came to going anywhere else. I can vividly remember exactly what it was like. We woke up extremely early in the morning. Apparently, there was a bus at night you could go on, but we didn't get that one. But we woke at 4 a.m, headed to the bus station in Mort Shit. Wild place that seemed to be, buses going to all corners of the country, and we got a bus to her hometown in Isan. She was from a place called Kalasin, which seemed to be one of the smaller provinces in Isan, and the way she rested her head on my shoulder and all the things she did, it really felt like it was a real and genuine thing we had together. When we arrived in Kalasin town, She told me her village was about 25 minutes away, so we would need to get transportation there, but that was very easy. About 500 baht we paid to this guy to take us there. And that's when you start seeing a part of Thailand that you didn't even know existed. That's when you start seeing a part of Thailand that feels like what Bangkok must have been like 100 years ago. I thought it was great. I was very nervous when we finally got to the family's house, but they were very welcoming. Her parents were actually considerably older than I expected. They were in their 60s, and she also had older siblings. That was when I found out that her eldest sibling was living in Sweden with the guy she married, so that gave me confidence that her family does respect foreign people. We were going to be staying in the family's house for a week, which was an experience like I've never had before. There was no air conditioning, they had a squat toilet, the shower was a bucket with a smaller bucket to scoop cold water over yourself. But again, being submerged in the culture was awesome. It was the second day that we were there when we started talking about the marriage and when Sinsot came up, and as you would expect, I was really shocked because I had no idea about it until it was raised, but I was assured it was just part of Thai culture and it is so important for the family. With her acting as translator, with her mother and father there, who were very nice people, after about 10 minutes of them talking in Thai, in fact, I don't think it was Thai, it was the Isan dialect they spoke there. She said to me what Sinsot was, what was expected, and it was 250,000 baht, which I believe, give or take, is around $7,000 or $8,000. I nearly had a heart attack, as I didn't even have that money. I mean, I had $2,000 for my emergency plane ticket, but that was it. I had to ask her, why didn't she ask me about this before? And she just said she didn't know if her parents would expect it, but they do, so that's why she's talking about it now. I said to her, what happened every time I told you that I don't have any money? You know I don't have this. Can we try to get a smaller amount? Tell them that we can do a little bit now and some more when we get married on paper. They started talking again, and not long later she said her parents would be okay with 200,000 baht, and I wouldn't have to give more later. Knowing what I know now, the fact that she had a kid should have meant Sinsot wasn't necessary. But at the time, I felt like I was pushed into a corner, and even though I didn't have the money, I said to them, okay. Yes, you heard that right. I said okay. Given the fact that the wedding was going to be in a month or so's time, I hoped I would somehow be able to sort it out. As soon as the wedding conversation was over, everything became a lot more light-hearted and laid back, and over the remainder of our time there, took me around to all the places where she used to go. She taught me about how things worked there, and I really did like that part of the country, but I definitely couldn't live there. At the back of my mind, as I was there and as we were heading back to Bangkok for us both to go back to work, I couldn't stop thinking about where I was going to get that money from within the next month. Back in Bangkok, we had a few days together before we both needed to work. She went back to work in the bar, I started work again, and after about a week of me not coming up with any idea where I could get the money from, I decided that the only thing I could do was call my parents and ask them for a loan. I'd never really asked them for a loan in my life before, so luckily they agreed. They gave me $10,000 because I also needed to pay for the wedding, not just the Sinsot. That made everything feel a lot more calm and relaxing, the fact they stepped in to help, and it was because of that that this wedding was going to go ahead as planned. The time moving up to the wedding was fantastic. We were really in love, we were affectionate, and while she was drunk most of the time when she came back and it was clear what had happened, I didn't care because she was going to be my wife soon, and I didn't care what she did for work, and eventually I was hoping within 6 months of us being married like this, I would be able to support her fully, and we could think about starting a family. Eventually it was time to go back up to her village. We had the ceremony. I paid 200,000 baht to her family. They were happy, the village was happy, everyone seemed to show respect towards me, no one seemed like they were out to get me, no one seemed like they were trying to rip me off. Everyone was so nice, offering me rice whiskey, and it was a fantastic experience. The wedding itself cost what was remaining of the $10,000, and that was the biggest chunk of money that I put into this relationship, but it really felt like it was worth it, because now I didn't have a girlfriend anymore, I had a wife. We had 2 days by the beach after we got married, and that was my first time going to the beach in Thailand, and that was such a fun experience as well. I'd never been as happy or as in love like I was at that moment in time. It was from there that all I could think about was how amazing things were going to continue being for both of us. Our lives seemed to be coming together so well, I thought we were married. In the eyes of the village we were, but not in the eyes of the government. Now, I suppose I should say what happened next. It happened over the space of about 2 or 3 months. I can't recall exactly the time frame, but things started out amazingly. We were in love, things were great, just like they had always been. But then, I am starting to notice her being a lot more distant when she comes back after work. She's being less affectionate when she comes back. She doesn't want to touch me when she comes back. I didn't say anything to start with. I just thought maybe she was busy at work. Maybe she was tired, and I was okay with that, because people get tired all the time. I was tired with work sometimes, and I had problems with work sometimes, and I got it. That's just how things went. But when it went on for even longer, that's when I started to ask her what was going on, and she just said, "Don't worry about it. Everything is fine. You don't need to concern yourself with things. Don't worry." When things got so bad, I had to insist, but she just didn't want to say anything. I was still persevering. I was still reasonably happy. She seemed to be okay, but it just wasn't the same as it was to start with, and I just couldn't put my finger on why. Until she told me. She said one day, and this was on her day off and my day off when I'd taken her somewhere nice to eat, like we did on those days off. She told me what was going on. She said about 2 weeks after we returned from the beach, someone she met a while ago who loved her and she loved had come back to Thailand because someone in his family had died and left him a lot of money, and she'd been spending time with him, and he knows about me, and she decided that she wanted to stay with him, not me. I thought she was joking when she said that to start with, because I thought we had the most intense love that people could have for each other, but no, she wanted him. When I found out how much money he had, that was when I understood all along what was actually going on. That was when I understood the truth about what this relationship actually was. It wasn't a relationship. She was just using me for convenience so she didn't have to spend any of her own money. Okay, I didn't give her any money really, but she was living in my place. My money was what used to pay for everything. All her food, her phone, everything I paid for. To find out this was one of the most awful moments of my life. It was dreadful and it devastated me. She left me, just like that. After all that, after all I'd accepted, after everything I'd taken, after everything I'd done for her, the fact that none of it was real made me feel worse than I ever felt before, and I went into a very bad depression. I lost my job because I couldn't work anymore, and although I had my $2,000 emergency money for a plane ticket home, I found myself just using that to drink to try to make myself feel better. I looked at all the girls that worked in the bars very differently after that. I didn't realize they could be so cruel and calculating, but then again, you only know something after it's actually happened. That was another embarrassing phone call to my parents, telling them what happened. I didn't tell them the whole thing as it was too embarrassing to admit to, but I had to tell them what happened and that I didn't have any money to go home. Can you help? Which, luckily, they did. That was my Thailand experience. Started out being the best experience of my life and ended up being the worst experience of my life because I fell in love and I actually got married to someone. I guess the fact that she didn't want to get married to me on paper should have pointed to something that could have told me everything I needed to know. I was just another stupid foreigner who had become yet another statistic about being scammed by a girl who he met in a bar who he thought loved him. I'll end this by saying don't be like me. It's not worth it. I can promise you it's not worth it. I gave all my love for her. I accepted things that no sane person would accept for her and for the love I had for her. And at the end of the day, all it did was destroy me mentally and emotionally, and I am still destroyed because of it today. Be careful in Thailand, because if you're not, your whole world could come crashing down around you, and there's going to be no one left to help you pick up the pieces.
Thanks for tuning into today's story, guys. Really do appreciate it. If you're interested in exclusive stories from both Thailand and the Philippines, as well as what will be coming a whole selection of other exclusive content soon, then please check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. Patreon is a place where I'm going to be hoping to build a big community of people who are interested in everything to do with Thailand, the Philippines, stories, anything to do with expat life all over the world. That's what Patreon is going to eventually be. Give me a couple of weeks while I'm getting things set up, and after that, everything is going to be really full steam ahead. Cheers, guys. Catch you in the next story, and bye for now.